Alright, so this here is actually going to be based on your second assessment, right? So as you can see, we have a figure here, right? And you have the front view of the figure as well as the plan view of this figure, right? Along with a few dimensions here. So let me just show you this question here that your assessment is going to be based on, right? You can see that it tells you that figure 7 shows two orthographic views of a location bracket. So this here is called a location bracket, and you're asked to produce an isometric drawing or an isometric projection of this bracket using x as the lowest point, right? And note they tell you not to copy the views, right? I just redrew it here because in this video I'll be showing you how we interpret the views and how we construct this in isometric, right? And you can see basically the same dimensions that are here. I also repeated it over here. Now, in one of our previous lessons, we went through this small symbol here. Let me just zoom up for you. Alright, so you can see the symbol here at the bottom, and if you can remember, we call this symbol the force angle projection symbol, right? And this shape here is called the frustum. So this is basically telling us that these two views are in force angle, and this means that this view is going to be the front view, and the view at the bottom here is going to be the plan view or the top view. So now that we have that information, now that we know which one is the front and which one is the plan, we can actually start constructing this in isometric projection. So as usual, I'm going to start off with the default layer, and you don't need all of these layers that I have here. I basically just use them to do the orthographic projection, right? Most likely you're just going to need the default layer and the outline layer, right? And as usual, um, you can set your outline layer with a line weight that is thick, right? 0.40 might be too much, so I might just carry that down a bit, right? So you can set your line layer to a thick layer for the outline layer, right? So we're going to switch to isoplane here because we've done that before, and we want to switch to isoplane top force, right? Because we gotta draw a box basically that's going to contain this figure. So if you look here, you can see that from here to here it's 70 mm, right? Now in some cases you're not going to get the entire length here of the view, right? You basically have to use common sense, or in this case you would need to use simple maths in order to be able to figure out what the total length is, right? So we know that this part of the drawing is 70 from this dimension, and if you look at this circle here, it's diameter 60, right? This symbol means that it's diameter. So we know that half of 60, which is going to be this half here, is 30, right? And that gives you 70 plus 30, which is 100, right? And seeing that we're constructing this with x being the lowest point, um, we're going to want the front view to be on the right plane, right? So we're going to put our 100 mm on the right receding axis or the right plane, right? Going towards the right. And when you change the isoplane top, please make sure that you have ortho mode on, or this line would not be the 30-degree line that you want it to be, right? So we have one length there. Now for the left axis, we already have the entire length here, which is 75. So you just need to draw a line that's 75, right? And then we can come back here using the same 100 that we used previously, and we can close off the shape here, right? So this is going to be the base for our box that's going to contain this here, right? So I want you to pay attention to how I break these things down, what my thought process is, and how I basically go about doing everything little by little. Because remember, as you're going to have more constructions like these to do, you're basically going to have to do them by yourself, right? Now, we need to know what the height of the drawing is going to be, and we can infer that from the front view. Again, we know that this is 70, and half of the circle here, which is 30, so that means that the height is going to be 100. So to make things easier, you just select the entire base like that. But before you copy and paste that, just switch your isoplane to either left or right. It doesn't really matter which one, right? But I'm going to switch to right. So I have that selected. I'm going to click on copy. I'm going to select this as the base point, and going up now, I'm going to type in the height, which should be 100, right? And I don't think I need to remind you all about setting units and all of those things, since we've basically been doing it every construction now, right? So we have the top there. All we need to do is join the points here to enclose the box, right? So it's very easy. Step 1 completed basically, right? You have your box that's going to enclose the figure, right? And you usually make your box using the dimensions. So now that we have the box, we know that this plane here that I'm highlighting for you, the one that I'm selecting here, this is where the lowest point is going to be, so that's where we gotta construct this front view here, right? So you can see that this circle has a diameter of 60 mm, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to copy this baseline here, and we're going to move it up to the same measurement for the circle, which is 60, right? And we're also going to copy this line here, this 90 degree, and we're going to move it towards the right, which should give you 60 mm also, right? And then we can basically take out this extra, take out that extra, right? So the aim for that was to actually get this small isometric square inside here, right? Because when you're constructing a circle in isometric, it's not going to look like a circle. It's going to look like an ellipse, right? And you need to draw the isometric square equal to the diameter of the circle. So this is very important for you to remember, and the reason why I'm saying this is because it can come in a paper one as well, right? So we have our smaller square here, isometric square, that is 60 mm, right? And just to get the center now for this isometric square, I'm going to copy this here. Remember, you want to see this symbol here as the center point, right? Or the midpoint. And you repeat the same thing here. Copy. but you don't do it at the bottom, you do it at the top here, right? And it's going to give you the midpoint or the center point. So now we can draw the isometric circle here, right? Now, in order to do that, you need to type in a command. So you type in the word ellipse, E-L-L-I-P-S-E, right? Sorry, no, not ellipse. My mistake. You type in the word isocircle. My bad. You type in ellipse first. So that's the command that you're typing in, ellipse. Make sure that you spell it correctly as well. You press enter, and at the bottom here, you're going to see that it gives you three options, right? So you're going to click on the option that is called isocircle. But in the case where it doesn't give you the option, you just type in I and you press enter, and it's going to switch to isocircle, right? It's going to ask you to specify the center. The center is going to be here. So you click on the center and you move it towards the end here of the isometric square, and you click again, right? And that's going to be your isometric circle, right? And please note that all the time we're drawing on isoplane right. Now, if you notice here, on this shape, this is not just one circle, right? The bottom half is actually an entire cylinder, right? It's a cylindrical something. So this means that we need to draw another isometric circle on the back part here, right? That I'm highlighting. Now, before you go through the entire process of drawing back the circle, it's very simple. All you need to do is click on the circle here. Then you click on copy. You use this as your base point, and you mirror it back here, or you copy it back here using the same base point, right? And it should give you back the circle here, right? Now, something that I always remind you to do is make sure that all of these here, they're ticked off, right? Because to connect the cylinder now, what you're going to do, you're going to want to see this symbol here, right? This is what they call a quadrant. That's what it look like. So you connect one quadrant to the opposite quadrant here, right? See? The symbol changed to a quadrant. Same thing here, right? Connect one quadrant to the opposite quadrant here, right? So just to make things a bit easier, I'm just going to change these two circles as well as the two lines that I drew here. I'm just going to change it to the outline, right? So you should be able to see it better there now. So that's actually one part that we already did there on the isometric, right? The bottom half, right? The cylindrical part. Now, what you need to remember is that you will not be seeing this part of the circle. So all you need to do is take your trim tool and remove that part there, right? So that's what the cylinder should look like, right? Now it looks correct. So we can continue now. So looking at the plan view here, you can see that you have something that looks like a handle, right? And this handle does not span the entire length of the cylinder. If you look at the plan view, it starts from this end here and it only goes up to 40 mm, right? And it's at the direct center here, right? Or it's at the direct midpoint here. So we know that it starts where the direct center of the circle is, right? Now, how would we know how to find this midpoint? Again, you gotta use some of your thinking skills here, right? We know that half of the circle is 30, so that means from here to here would be 30, right? So all we need to do is copy this line here. In fact, before you copy that line, please switch to isoplane top since we're using the top plane. So all we need to do now is copy this line, and it's going to be 30 mm away, so you type in 30, and this is where the line is going to start here, right? And we know that the length is supposed to be 40, so we could probably shorten it, right? So as of now it's at 75, so when you minus 75 from 40, it means that we gotta reduce it by 35. So you move it up and you type in 35, and if I measure it, yeah, you see it's 40. So this line, this other line here, is going to be equal to the other half of the circle, so that's going to be 30. So you can draw this line here, and we know that the length there is going to be 30. And then we can come back here to close off the shape, and we can basically trim out that extra. So if we look at the measurements, you can see that we have the 40 mm and the 30 mm there, right? And we have this rectangular part here. Now we just need this part here that look like the handle, right? So we can see that the width here is 15 mm, right? So again, it's very simple. We just copy this line here, and you type in your 15, you move it down, you type in your 15, and we can just trim out the extra here, right? Just to make things easier, I'm just going to delete this line here, and we can actually change the outline here now, and then switch to the outline layer and just deepen the parts that are going to show. So we have part of the plan view there. Now this is going to move straight down, but we can't move it straight down because it's on the top isoplane, so we gotta switch to the left isoplane. And if you look at the front view here, the back part of the handle has to go down 30, right? Which is this part here. So you go down, you type in 30, and you can copy it on the other part here and here as well. And then we can copy this shape here and place it back there. Now this part wouldn't show, so you trim it out there. This part wouldn't show, you trim that out. right? Since it's covered by the top part there, right? So, common sense. Now, the other part, which is the front part here, is going to go straight down to connect to the cylindrical part there, right? So, move it straight down. That's going to be 70. And then we can just copy and paste to this part as well as this part here. And seeing that this part is going to be covered, we can take out the extra here. And then we just connect here to here and here to here. And more parts of the cylinder is going to be blocked off, so you just trim those parts off. So I'm just going to hide the default layer here, and that's what the shape is going to look like, right? This is what your shape is going to look like. So this is what you call the location bracket. And that's it basically.